All right. Hey, what's happening, everybody? It is 8:59, almost 9 a.m., right on the dot here. 9:29, broadcasting live from the Hill Country. Hey, what's happening? Is Robert Phoenix with 15 Minutes of Flame. What's going on with all you groovy guys, groovy house, playing the greatest hits of the post-millennium generation? Let's see. How is everybody? Just going to wait for people to trickle on in. The trickle effect. We have 13 tricklers. Justice Moody. There's Thor by the door. What's happening, Steve? 1-0 Dragon. 14. Leanne. Hi, Leanne. Mr. Mike. What's going on, Mike? Looking forward to seeing you and meeting you on Thursday/Friday. Let's see. There's JMP Love, another traveler. Anna E. Hi, Anna. Good to see you. There's my man, Uncle Glenn, holding down the hot corner. Christy Tesmer in the house. There's Joan W. Shirley Lociavo. Double V. What's going on, V2? Ren Star. I know, Ren. Where you been? Hope you're well. Teresa Blackburn. Carrie Rose. There she is, Lils. What's happening, Lils? Good to see you. I love saying good morning to you guys. It's great. It's really a blessing. Every day to sit here and say good morning to everybody. It's so cool. I got to say. Ray Ann Robinette. What's going on? Ray Ann, good to see you. Let's see. There she is, the lovely and talented Joan S. in the house. Judy Anderson, getting my things together. What's going on? Cuz, good to see you. There she is. Mojo Mama. Atlas. Morning, Atlas. Hope the weight of the world is not too heavy upon your shoulders. My feet are in Orlando, but my head's in Texas. Well, looks like we're going to have very good weather here this weekend. Just hold on a second. I got to clean the old brim there. Looks like it's going to be 90s. 90s. Yeah, I have no control over the buffering. It's the best connection I can get. Best connection I can get. But yeah, it's going to be warm. We're going to have some good Texas weather this weekend. So it's going to be hot and cool at the same time. Jasper update. He is back on track. Oh, we got celebrating my baby's first birthday today. Congratulations. Happens to be the birthday also of my son's grandfather, September 29th. It's a good birthday. Very good birthday. There she is, Jan Augenstein. Hi, Jan. Good to see you. There's Michael. What's going on? Yeah, congratulations. Take good care of that baby of yours. Intense vibes. Oh, the vibes are always intense. My dad's birthday today too. Yeah, a lot of people. More people are born in the month of October than any other month. Back in the day, when you would go to a restaurant, when they had restaurants mostly that you could go to, there we go. There was you would see a lot of birthday parties in October. Almost every night you would go to a restaurant, there'd be a birthday party. And we know why. Well, because December is a very dark month and it's very cold and people like to snuggle up in December. Hi, Mary. Good to see you. Welcome to the show. So September and October, I think, what is it? One day? I think it's like what? There's one day out of the year that has more birthdays than any other day. What is it? It's like, I think it's like October 14th or something like that. I think it's on October. Hey, Ani, what's going on? Nice to see you. Hope you're feeling better. I think that's the day where there's more people born in that day than any other day, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see. Anybody else coming through? Coming through. Going once, going twice. going 3 times. I hope everybody enjoyed yesterday's kind of laid back show. I would, we're just cruising around a little bit. There was some interesting ground that was covered, and I hope you subscribe to Yorik's channel. It's a great channel. Hi, Eileen. Good to see you. Welcome back. My sister's birthday is October 14th. See, there you go. I think it's October 14th. More people born in that day than any other day. Crimmy's in the house. There's Maureen's Mayor. What's going on? MD. September 9th. Oh, okay. There we go. Yeah. Well, they're in September, October. But I'd heard October. There was a certain day in October. Let me just check that out. Let's see. Days most people are born. September 9th would not surprise me at all. So let's see. According to mid-September is the most packed time of the year, September 9th, closely followed by September 19th. Yes. I read about October, an October month. Most popular birth months in order. August, September. Why is September the most popular month for birthdays? Let's see. These are the most and least popular birth months. So parenting let's see, it's parenting first story. So the 9th and the 21st has the maximum births. Yeah, I had read somewhere it was October 14th. I'm not sure why. But there you go. It's the fall, obviously. But yeah, between September and October, you're going to find, if you went to a restaurant, you'd find like happy birthday songs. Let's do this. Popular October birthdays. So they get into like the astrology of birthdays in October, which I really don't want. But yeah, I think October 14th, there's like, okay, let me just look at this. October 14, popular birth date. Let me look at that, October 14th. Yeah, it just goes into astrology. These people, these people, these people, these people, these people, blah, 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 blah. So who's born today? Let's just check out a few September 29 birthdays. Why don't we do that? I've got the astrology of the date set up today. We're going to get into that. That'll be interesting. All right. So here are some of your September 29th birthdays. Gene Autry, Anne Bancroft, Sylvia Berlusconi. Let's see who else. Enrico Fermi. Let's see. Steve Forrest, the actor. I always like Steve Forrest, the actor. Let's see. Who else? Hershey Hawkins, basketball player, pretty good ball player from Philadelphia. And let's see who else. Pete McCloskey, the pacifist senator from California. I guess September 29th, a good day for a pacifist to be born. A lot of athletes born on this day. Let's see. Billy Strange, born on this day. Anybody else? Anybody else? Anybody else? Well, I'm sure there are, but those are the people that kind of jump out a little bit for September 29. Halsey, the young Luciferian singer, born on this day. Oh, and Ian McShane, the actor, the guy from Deadwood. That guy's great. He's born on this day. Back in 1942. 1942. We can have a chart for him. How about that? Leo rising, of course. There we go. Taurus on the midheaven. Sun, Mars conjunction in Libra. And Venus, Neptune conjunction in Virgo, second house. Interesting character. Leo rising and Pluto in the 12th. He can play terrifying characters, let me tell you. Ian McShane. Happy birthday, Ian McShane. All right. A lot to cover here today. Why don't we jump into the morning prayer / invocation. Here we go. Dear blessed and holy Father, Mother God of the great central sun, within the universe light, which is light of Yeshua, Sananda, Emmanuel, we ask that only the highest and best wisdom and truth and information come through this channel at this time. And as a result, we are all blessed and graced by the qualities of freedom, liberation, patience, compassion, empathy, strength, endurance, flexibility, humor, intelligence, articulation, perception, discernment, courage, and above all, love. We ask that any karmic residue be cleansed, purified, clarified, and removed from this stream. So be it. All right, let's get going. A lot of ground to cover today. Apparently, California is back on fire again. I've been getting some texts from a friend of mine, Linda, my good friend Linda, in California. It is they're burning out the state, and very very tragic, extremely tragic. It's called. We've got the glass fire now. I'll show you guys some photos. Oh, it's really bad. Really bad. Jesus. Go away. Okay, here we go. Let me show you some oh, this is really bad. St. Helena. We're talking St. Helena, Calistoga. This is just bad news all the way around. Here, I'll throw the screen share up. I'll show some of the visuals for you guys. They're not inspiring at all. So there we go. Start off here. Governor declares state of emergency as Zog. That's an interesting name, isn't it? Zog. Normally, Zog stands for one thing in particular, but I guess we could throw another G on there and interpret it accordingly. And glass wildfires race through California. So this is the Glass Mountain in. Look at this. This is just absolutely terrible. And it's a beautiful, older structure just being completely taken to the ground. Mendocino County, Sonoma County, they've all been just completely terrorized by fire over the last 3 years. The fast-moving Zog fire. There it is right there. Started 2 days ago. Zog Mine Road and Jenny Bird Lane, north of Igo. Now, this is a Redding area, Shasta, Trinity. So this is getting up into Ben Balderson territory, Siskiyou County. And this is where there are a number of quote-unquote freedom-loving Californians in Shasta County. Like, that's the area where If you didn't want to really be a part of California, and California, heavy duty left liberal leaning politics, that's where people were migrating towards. It's a beautiful area. And guess what? They got fires there, forcing tens of thousands of people to evacuate. Fire moving at a dangerous rate of speed. The Glass Fire, which ignited Napa County and expanded into Sonoma County at a dangerous rate of speed. Why is it a dangerous rate of speed? Why? Well, we have potential reasons why. At Queen of the Valley Medical Center in Napa, 12 people were treated for issues related to smoke inhalation. Here we go. End of the world apocalyptic imagery coming at us from California. Sonoma Marin Fairgrounds CEO Allison Keeney. So the fairground was transformed from a COVID-19 testing site to a shelter overnight. Those fairgrounds, I've been there many times as part of the Health and Harmony Festival in Santa Rosa. So here we go, satellite showing the smoke. And now what's happening in California is the temperature in California. Like the temperature has been incredibly hot. And, I live in California most of my life. And if you had a summer where, let's say you lived in a place like, I don't know, Petaluma or something like that. If you had more than 15 to 20 days over 90 degrees, it would be considered a hot summer. Like California and the Bay Area in general, once you get past, like say Walnut Creek and Concord, the weather changes dramatically. Once you get on kind of the other side of the Bay Bridge, it gets warmer. And the further inland you get, the warmer it gets. If you're in Marin County, Sonoma County, Santa Rosa County, the average temperature in the summer might be somewhere in the low to mid 80s. And, California has been hit with extremely high temperatures. So they had to evacuate the entire city of Calistoga. This is really it's more than a bummer. I used to go to Calistoga a lot when I was younger. And I remember the first time I was able to go there, and well, even when I wasn't able to go there, I used to go to the wineries. Back in the day, you would go to a winery that would not charge you for wine tasting. I mean, that was the beautiful thing. You could go to the wineries and you could drink, all these different wines, and they wouldn't charge you. Of course, you felt compelled to buy wines. And as a young bohemian, that's what I did. So let's see. We've got Castello di Amoroso Winery Calistoga burned in the blaze. This is brutal. This is just brutal. This is the Skyhawk neighborhood in Santa Rosa, California. Holy shit. A red flag warning heat advisory both expired Monday night, but low humidity and winds. Now here comes Newsom coming in and wanting government assistance. Details are expected in the coming weeks, but Newsom said they will include predictive fire analysis, which will allow for pre-positioning firefighting equipment. Great. So if you have not watched the reality check show with Jay and I urge you to check that out because it's a pretty good episode. And one of the things that we get into are the conditions for these fires. And there has been this Japanese bark beetle, which has gone in, and essentially what they do is they go into trees and they hollow them out from the inside out. So the trees become kindling, essentially. They're just kindling. And this has been going on for years. When I was living in San Diego, they were having problems with the bark beetle. And then what happens is that they don't go in and remove the trees. So we have all these trees. Not every tree has been hollowed out by the bark beetle, although one can make a case that quite a few of them are. Oaks are very prominent in California, and the bark beetle tends to burrow into the oak and consume it from the inside out. Now, the other level with this is that, uh, you know, there tends to be a high degree of aluminum in the chaff from geoengineering, and aluminum is an accelerant. So if the entire landscape is being doused in this aluminum-based chaff, that's going to attach itself to the agriculture, to some degree structures. And what's going to happen is that those things will burn even hotter. Like the degrees of these fires have really ramped up over, I would say, the last 10 years. Like there are descriptions of firefighters having to deal with temperatures that seem to be even higher than what they've been in the past. And there was one fire, I think it was in Arizona, where the fire was so hot, there was a whole kind of group of firefighters that couldn't deal with the heat, even with all of their flame retardant equipment and hoses. They lost their lives. So the conditions for these fires are they're not normal. They're just not normal. And I haven't even broached the subject of the dews, which I think are an active element here. In fact, Dutch Sins has shown that on his Doppler visuals of, basically these streaks of light coming right down into areas of California, and they're at it again. The idea here is to depopulate the western states, right? California, Washington, Oregon. They want people out. In the South, where they do have fires occasionally, right now they don't. But Eric Garcetti has been making things very difficult for people, turning power on and off. They have rolling blackouts. I mean, they have really made life very difficult for Californians. And of course, what are they doing? They're responding in kind by moving out. And this is exactly what they want them to do in California, in Washington, and in Oregon, because the plan ultimately is not for Americans to be living in those great states. And they are great states, totally great states. And again, Jay and I covered this over on Reality Check over the weekend. And it has a lot to do with ownership of the land, who owns the land, and who's going to get the land. But I guarantee you, somebody's winery will remain intact. It will not be burned to the ground, even though it is in the same area as some of these other wineries. Yep. So let me show you the one winery that seems to be intact. And that winery happens to be this one. Isn't that lovely? One vision, one wine. Very interesting. So this is Opus One, which is the winery of the Rothschild family. And of course, we have the symbol of Janus right here, right? Probably Old Man Rothschild and New Man Rothschild. So we have the Janus symbol right at the top. Yeah, and no fire there. Nope. They're probably just fine and dandy. The old Opus One. And I would bet that Gavin Newsom's winery is also intact. And this is how the game works. Let's see. Wow, love Opus One wines. They're great wines. I've had it, but that's the Rothschild family vineyard. Uncle Glenn says I have a cell phone app called ONX Hunt, which has a feature which shows active wildfires. The entire West is on fire. Absolutely. The West Coast diaspora meant to spread liberal badness to the rest of America, like spider sack opening up. Well, yes and no. So the real liberal forces of California have already left, and they started leaving a while ago. Um, Austin became a Austin was always kind of purple, but Austin was one of those places where it was a haven for like weirdos, like keep Austin strange. Um, but Californians started to really show up in Austin in the early 90s and began to redistrict Austin. So they've already been on the march. They've already gone into other areas like Austin, probably a place, Asheville. I'd assume Asheville has some Californians. I know from my journeys that one of the original Californian migrations was up to Washington State in 1989 because I moved there from California to Washington in 1980. Unbeknownst to me, there were Californians far wealthier than myself that were actually making the very same move at that time. And they were selling their properties in California and going up and buying extremely affordable properties in Washington State, starting businesses, raising property taxes, and raising the ire of Washingtonians across the state, specifically in Seattle. In Seattle and Washington was always kind of like, a little on the, theoretical reddish side, a hunting state, a fishing state. Oh, and then the Californians moved in. And that changed. Seattle was always pretty liberal. When I lived there, there was a guy named Norm Rice who was the mayor. Whatever, wasn't anything special or anything to write home about. But it's nothing like it is today. So what we're seeing now with the diaspora of the West Coast it's because the liberals have left a long time ago. What they're doing now is they're cratering out the undesirables, the people that really have a desire. Like look where the fires are. The fires are basically from Sonoma to the Shasta Siskiyou area. Like those are people that tend to be a bit more free thinking and don't want to be living in urban areas. And those are extremely resource rich areas. Okay. So I would say probably another area that will be targeted at some point will be Grass Valley in Nevada City, that area. I think that's probably going to be next on the list. They're going to try to go right up through that gold country area, close to Nevada. They basically want to empty those areas out. They don't want anybody really living there. Number one, that's contrary to Agenda 21. And number two, there are new landlords coming in. You look at the Oregon fires. What happened with the Oregon fires? It was all in rural areas in Oregon, moving people off their farms, and they're just terrible, absolutely terrible. So this is really the exodus now. And again, I've talked about this before. The plan is very clear. You don't have to dig very deep to understand what's going on. We're looking at the balkanization of the United States, and people like Steve Pieczenik have talked about this at length. They're removing the coasts as centers of power, and they're moving the centers of power into the middle and the south of the country. And that's what they want. They don't want anybody living really in those beautiful coastal regions. They have different plans for them, with the exception of Florida, by the way, which seems to be a hotbed for a certain group of people that are associated with the overall blueprint for what's going on. Joe brings up a good point. Thinking of all the wildlife losses also makes me sick. Yeah, our friends, the animals really do suffer when these things happen. And the one thing we do know about nature, it's pretty resilient and it does bounce back. But this is wanton and reckless desecration, and that's never good. VV says, I can confirm this, the Californification of my once beautiful Sleepy Gem hometown Portal began in the late 80s. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because my first article that I ever had published in a magazine was for a magazine called, was it Pacific? Oh, it was Northwest Magazine. I think it was Northwest Magazine. And I was commissioned to do a piece on the real estate market in the Pacific Northwest. It was very eye-opening at the time. I learned a lot about what was going on. And Portland was starting to take off. In fact, I went down into the Portland area and researched the Portland real estate market as a result of that. Yeah, that's right. Ryan brings up a great point. Canada's immune to climate change. Isn't that amazing? The day after Don Lemon declared the riots were hurting the Dems, instantly stopped in the fort. Oh, I know. It's like, okay, we're going to stop the riots and let's go start the fires. Neo Bolshevik describes the mind bend. Let's see. What else do we have here? There's Emily. What's going on? VV digging in. Look at that. Grass Valley. Well, it just makes sense. All right. All right, Uncle Glenn. Drive safe. Yeah, it makes sense with the whole. I mean, that's the area, right? That is the area, for the most part, that's been fairly untouched, and I hope it still remains untouched. But if you look at the pattern, that would be the next area, right? They want people out of there. They want them out. So that's what's going on, and not a lot of it being addressed, by the way, by the current regime at all. Hi, Sue. Nice to see you. I have to wonder why Trump has allowed. Paula. Again, I've said the same thing. I have said the same thing. There was virtually no mention of the arsons that were being the fires that were being set by clearly arson terrorists in California. I'm sorry, Oregon. No mention whatsoever. None. And not real happy about that. Not real happy. People have lost significant amounts of property, their livelihood. They'll never get it back. And they'll never get it back. And they will not, for a period of time, they will not allow people to move back into those areas. And the resources and that are targeted for those areas, like fire and emergency services, they'll be gone. They'll be gone. The hospitals in those areas, they'll remove them as well. They won't be there. At the very, you may get, telemedicine. Good luck with that. But in order to get so-called care, you're going to have to move closer to the city. That's what's going to happen. So where I live, we have a hospital that serves pretty much the entire hill country area. Not that it's a great hospital, but like if you live in a place like, I don't know, Johnson City or Stonewall or one of these other towns around me, or even Kerrville for that matter, you would come to Fredericksburg. Because after Fredericksburg is San Antonio. I mean, think about that. Like, Kerrville's got all these places for recovery, but I don't think that they don't have a main hospital like Fredericksburg does. So this idea of hospitalization and care, especially in rural and semi-rural areas, that'll go away. First responder services will go away. You're going to be on your own. So it's going to be interesting times. All right. Anybody out there in California? I don't know what more I can add here, except for the fact that you need to know what's going on and what your state is targeted for. And I'll leave it at that. So I want to get into the coronavirus a little bit here and just get into some strange anomalies with the coronavirus. And we're going to look at two very specific and very, very different areas of the coronavirus and how it's impacted the population. But before I do, I'd like to show you an interesting little visual. And where are we here? You may want to show this to some of your mask friends. So this is a little meme here. Pretty clear. Here is bacteria from a mask worn for 20 minutes and then cultured in a petri dish. My, oh my. Doesn't that look healthy? Doesn't that just look healthy? And that's from 20 minutes. What happens if you wear that for 4 hours? 5 hours? So for all intents and purposes, in order to avoid, whatever the hell this shit is from coming into your system, you really need to change your mask every 5 minutes. Think about that. Look at that. Just stare at that for a second. 20 minutes and then cultured in a petri dish. This is what's going on with the masks. And how, one of the things that happens to people who have exposure to mold is it affects their behaviors. Like mold will affect your behavior. And one of the most, I would say, famous cases of mold is the rye mold. And the rye mold is also known as the ergot mold or ergotamine mold, which is kind of the basis and the foundation for lysergic acid dithalamate 25. So we know that in an extreme version where a particular mold is synthesized, that it could have absolutely mind-altering effects. So if you are breathing in your own mold factory, what will it do? It will affect your behavior. It will affect your thoughts. It will affect your emotions, which is, I think, probably one plausible reason why people are kind of acting insane when it comes to the masks, because they are under the influence of a particular mold or particular molds, which then affect their physiology, biology, and psychology. If you've ever lived in a house with mold or an apartment with mold or a vehicle with mold, it will affect you. It will affect you on a number of different levels. So think about that. And think about what the masks are capable of in terms of recirculating some of these mold-like bacterium, right? So just a little visual for you. But let's get into two very, very different theoretical physical realities around the coronavirus. Now, we continue to track Sweden, and it's really funny when you bring Sweden up on Twitter about how Sweden has defied the coronavirus pandemic by choosing not to lock down, but by creating a herd immunity. You'll always get blowback from people on Twitter. It's like ridiculous. Anyway, but check this out. No lockdown, no mask, no hysteria, no problem. Sweden didn't go into a corona coma and it's living in glorious normality. Now, Dominic Sandbrook asks, is this proof we got it all terribly wrong? Yeah, that's what's going on in Sweden right now. Look at that. Oh, yeah. Yep, they got their little boat parades, their little flotillas. They're sunning. Look at that. They've got their, what do they call those things? Water boards. They're just having a fine old time. Fine old time. That's in Sweden. Now, of course, I believe that Sweden has been given a pass because of their active participation in the refugee resettlement program. It's all basically global mandates. So here we go. We're looking at Sweden here, and the chart forecasts the rest of 2020. With the UK's GDP set to plunge by more than Sweden's, while Britain is left with a larger budget deficit because the cost of propping up the economy. Britain will also have a deficit in the current account. All this deficit stuff is just it really means nothing. It's something that they can hang their hat on with the fake economy or the fake numbers that they give us. And that's all it is. It's just a fake scenario, fake money, fake numbers, fake economy. But based on this fake version, it sure looks like Sweden is doing far better than its other fellow EU members, even though UK is supposedly not a part of the EU currently. So here we go. Down and to the right, down and to the right. And oh, look at that. They're playing volleyball. And here's a Swedish Viking Valkyrian goddess. Interesting image, right? So we have the dark sun transposed against the white sun. Is that interesting? Just from an image perspective. Not that it was intentional. But they're playing beach volleyball. They're having a fine old time in Sweden. Fine old time. The results were not perfect. I guess the Swedes failed to protect their care homes. No, they didn't fail. They decided that they were going to eliminate a certain part of the population, which would become a drag on the system. Oh, who's this now? This is the Swedish foreign minister. Let's look at this. Just telling you, like the mortality rate. Anyway, Sweden is the global success story. Enjoying the final days and rays of their summer and into the fall, playing beach volleyball, old men playing chess in the park. There it is. These comments have not been moderated. And you can't compare one country to another. People need to stop thinking the grass is always greener. If you think so, then leave and become a citizen of this magical utopia of a nation. Not that easy. Well, we did ask for numbers, but unlike the stereotype, they seem to be useless at maths. I believe Ferguson's wildly incorrect model predicted 500,000 deaths in the UK without a lockdown. Since he was also wrong about the past couple of epidemics, we have to wonder if using the predictions of an already failed seer was simply useful for someone's nefarious agendas. The one thing I will say about the coronavirus is that it is waking people up. It is the wake-up call. It's either going to wake you up or it's going to put you deeper into the trance. There's no other way around it, right? Waking up or deeper trance. That's what's happening. And if you're masking up, you're probably going deeper into the trance. So who else has somehow magically managed to escape the ravages, the absolute ravages of the so-called coronavirus? Well, I'll give you another shining example, but a very different one than Sweden, which I believe had most favored nation status on that whole thing, but that's a whole other story. Well, what's going on in Africa? Scientists can't explain puzzling lack of coronavirus outbreaks in Africa. The novel coronavirus has infected more than 26.35 million people, dubious number, with just 4 countries accounting for over 15 million cases. They are the United States, Brazil, India, and Russia, the same 4 that have been at the top for months. You have surprised the world when it rose to the top. Come on, they're ginning the stats. Okay, they're ginning the stats. But Africa apparently has dodged the coronavirus. They kept saying it was coming, it was coming, it was coming. Experts expected the same thing to happen in Africa, but it didn't. It didn't. If anything, Africa is doing better than any other continent, both when it comes to cases and casualties. I thought they were heading towards a disaster, a complete meltdown. Professor Shabir Madhi told the BBC News. The UK's top virologist. I mean, this guy is number 1. Right? He is number 1. The top virologist echoed what others must have thought about the African coronavirus outbreak. But South Africa's death rate is almost 7 times lower than the UK. Salim Abdul Karim, the head of the country's COVID-19 response team, told the BBC that most African countries don't have a peak. I understand why. I'm completely at sea. Well, maybe it's because when they use a coronavirus test, like they did in Gambia, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, or was it Burkina Faso, or when they used the test, that a mango came back testing positive. Perhaps that's one of the reasons why. He explained the factors like population density would be a critical factor that would favor the rapid spread of the illness. Oh, okay. Crowding poverty-stricken areas makes social distancing all but impossible and increases the risk of COVID-19 spreading. Have you ever seen some of the cities in Africa? Really? The overall age. In general, the population of Africa is younger than in regions hardest hit by COVID-19. Another hypothesis will sound familiar to those who have been following coronavirus development. Some research has shown that other human coronaviruses that cause common colds can elicit immune response that could provide protection against COVID-19. South African researchers went to work on that idea, attempting to analyze 5-year-old blood samples that were served from a flu vaccine trial in Soweto. Did they find anything? Probably not. Let me tell you why. This is evaded. Africa now free of wild polio virus. All right, let me tell you why I believe Africa has somehow magically evaded the coronavirus. There are a couple factors in play here. First of all, let me give you one hypothesis. One hypothesis is that the so-called coronavirus is really a designer form of malaria. Hence the reason why hydroxychloroquine has been recommended. What does hydroxychloroquine do? It fights malaria. Who loves malaria? Bill Gates loves malaria. So is the coronavirus a designer form of malaria? Where do they take a lot of hydroxychloroquine to fight malaria? Africa. That could be one plausible reason. That in order to combat malaria, they're taking hydroxychloroquine, which they have. So therefore, they would be immune to the so-called coronavirus, which might be a designer form of malaria. That's one very plausible reason. Number 2, they don't have a lot invested in controlling Africa. Because, again, for all intents and purposes, Africa is pretty controlled, right? The standard of living is really, really low in Africa, really low. they don't have to bottom out or level out the standard of living in Africa. They don't. Where they do have to bottom out and level out the standard of living are places like New Zealand and Australia and the United States and the UK and Canada, all the Five Eyes countries. Oh, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. That's where they need to level out and bottom that out. Why? Why should they really care so much about Africa at this point in time? Because Africa is already under control. They don't need to control Africa. If they do want to control Africa, they'll just bring in some warlord and basically create a lot of dissension, run the arms in, and fracture the people, blow a government up, and then send a refugee program off to another country. There you go. They don't have to. Why should they? It is a continent that is not possessed of a lot of personal wealth. I mean, you might be more free in some ways in Africa. Quite possibly, but you don't have the resources available to you. Bottom line, end of story. So there's really nothing to be gained by putting an entire continent under some form of lockdown and control. Not going to happen. There's no investment there. And even if there was, and let's say they tried to roll this thing out because of the natural relationship with malaria and hydroxychloroquine, that's not talked about now, is it? No, gee, I wonder why. I can't explain it. This guy's the top fucking virologist in the UK. He can't even explain it. UK, you need some better virologists, and you need some better predictive models, just like we do here. So we have these extreme versions. We have Sweden, and then we have Africa. Very extreme versions. But the one thing that connects them is that Sweden was very, very open and willing to take new people in from Africa at a certain point in time. And I'm sure that paid off quite well for them, that the interest that they were paying for the refugee resettlement program was getting paid off in the corona and post-corona pandemic environment. Just a hunch there. Just a hunch. I got one other story for you, which is kind of an interesting one, and a little bit in the middle here. And this has to do with Madrid. And I found this to be fairly interesting. You got basically a mayor in Madrid who is refusing to bend, okay, to the viral fascism. So here we go. Madrid refuses new lockdown. The city leader argues people get run over every day, but that doesn't mean we ban cars. Well, some point in time they will. But that in Spain's coronavirus hospitalization hit 350 a day. Madrid leader Isabel Díaz Ayuso said the solution is not a total confinement. Protesters have hit the streets as 8 more districts go into partial lockdown. The Spanish capital has seen ICU wards fill up with Spain's highest infection rate. We know that the statistics are at times dubious at best. This is weird. Is that Liz Hurley's kid? Oh my God. Is that a boy or I don't know? I'm not going to go there. Okay. Isabel Díaz Ayuso said the solution is not total confinement. Demanded more help from the Spanish government as new restrictions were imposed on parks, shops, and restaurants in another 8 districts today. So you have Sweden doing one thing, and then you have this mayor of Madrid. I guess she's a mayor, leader. She's a leader of Madrid. I don't know if that's a mayor. And basically saying, well, hold on a second. We don't want to go through this. But we're seeing now that there is this rollout of the supposed second wave. It's coming. And these are all infections rising across Europe. But we don't know. We don't know if they're rising. We cannot trust the stats. We cannot trust the data. We can't. Period. End of story. Every time we do, we're shown that it's not correct or misinterpreted or projected in a way that does not pan out. So, here's somebody in Spain basically trying a different approach. It'll be interesting to see how long she is in power as the leader of Madrid. But this is where we are now. We're at, I guess this is phase two, the lockdown story. But people are waking up. The thing is, you're either going to wake up or you're going to fall deeper into the trance. That's where we are now. Wake up or fall deeper into the trance. So there you go. Just a few different cases of what's happening globally and the stunning irony and paradox between Sweden and Africa as it relates to the coronavirus. Wanted to talk about the debate tonight. And let's see. I wanted to talk about the astrology of the debate. So let me get into this, since we do indulge in astrology here. So I really wanted to really just focus on Trump. Like, if Trump does not dominate this debate based on the astrology of the debate, then somehow, somewhere, some way, the fix is in. Let's just look at the factors here. At the time of the debate, which will be 9 p.m., right, Cleveland, Ohio, 8 p.m. here for us in Texas, and for you folks in California, 6 p.m., the ascendant will be in Taurus, and it will be a scant, what is that, about 4 degrees, 5 degrees off of Trump's midheaven, right? That's the ascendant. Trump's midheaven will be conjunct the ascendant. We can see the true node. Right here is Trump's sun, Uranus, true node, right there, all in Gemini. He's coming right in to the notch and groove of the nodal return. There's really, astrologically, no way that Trump should lose the election, period, end of story. Really no way. Now, the challenge here for Trump is we've got this Moon-Neptune conjunction, and it is a balsamic moon in Pisces, meaning that it is at the end of its lunar phase before it goes into the new moon or harvest moon in Aries. And the moon and Neptune will square his natal sun, and will also be squaring his natal moon. This is the one area of the debate that could be tricky for Trump in some way. Will his tax? I think what will happen is that Biden, if Biden, so my thought on Biden is that there is more than one Biden, and that whoever this character that we see who is bumbling is a bit of a Trojan horse. And what will happen tonight is we'll either get that Biden with a super intense injection of any number of nootropics and B vitamins and stimulants like Adderall or even methamphetamine, questions in advance, and comms, right? So that's one version of Biden we'll get. Or perhaps what we'll get is we'll get the Biden that is on the bench, and that they've been waiting for this moment to bring that Biden out. So just keep your eyes on how Joe Biden looks tonight. If he looks somewhat different than the Biden we've been seeing, that they've been waiting for this moment, that they have been planning to bring in either the quote unquote real Biden or a different version of Biden. And we know that there are different versions of these politicians. We saw it with Hillary time and time again. So I think that is, from the Biden side of things, that could be coming into effect here. But I do believe that this T square could be a bit problematic for Trump, and I think what the Biden character will focus on will be response to the coronavirus and tax returns. I think that's going to be the one thing that Trump will have to deal with that could be problematic here. But he also has some other things that are going on. Pluto, Saturn, and Jupiter will all be conjunct his natal vertex in the fifth house, which I think is quite good, actually. He's going through, well, he's not really going through, but Pallas is going through his fifth house, and there will be kind of the beginning of a Pallas return for him, although it is retrograde. But the nodes are really lining up here for Trump, which I think will, ultimately will carry him to victory. Not just in the debate, but just overall in general. It's almost unstoppable. Venus-Mars conjunction. Trump's Mars will be transiting Venus in Leo, and should be fairly dominant here. And because Venus at this time, it will be in late Leo, right? It's almost kind of in trine with transiting, well, let's see, what do we have here? Transiting, that's not transiting Mars. Mars retrograde. Yeah, I guess it would be trying to transiting Mars retrograde in Aries. So Trump should benefit greatly from this aspect, and certainly from what's going on with the nodes and with Pluto, Saturn, Jupiter conjuncting his vertex. Neptune, Trump's Neptune will conjunct the transiting Sun here. I think really these are the big aspects. The Venus-Mars conjunction, which I think is dominant, by the way. Pluto, his natal Pluto trining Chiron. I think he could probably get his point across without making fun of Biden's supposed disabilities. And let's see, he's got that Mercury in Cancer, and I think Mars could be a bit challenging with the Venus-Saturn square for him. He's got to watch out for. He's got to control his temper in some ways. Like I think Trump is very good at being a bully if he needs to be. He has to watch out for the bully tendencies, but at the same time, he cannot play soft. And again, if it's all scripted in theater, I mean, that's a whole other. I'm just giving you sort of the astrological aspect. Now, Joe Biden is a Scorpio, and his planets are all related to his 12th house. So I didn't do a chart for Biden, but we can look at his chart just to give you an idea as to what his chart looks like. We've looked at it before. It's nothing great, by the way. In many ways, I'm looking forward to the Kamala Harris Mike Pence debate, because Kamala Harris and Mike Pence. Kamala Harris is a Gemini rising, which puts Mike Pence's sun either on her ascendant or in her 12th house. And as emotional as Kamala Harris can be, Mike Pence is the antithesis of that. I think that's going to be interesting to watch. I'm not so sure how interesting this debate will be, although it'll be interesting. I mean, just to see how it plays out. From a contrast of styles, I think the Harris Biden debate, Harris Mike Pence debate will be really interesting. Okay, all right. So let's do a quick screen share here with the Biden chart, so you guys know what you've got. in Biden, just to refresh your memory. So here he is, 3 degrees Sag. His chart is a lot like Hillary Clinton's. Imagine that. Hillary Clinton, early Sagittarius, ascending. The difference with Biden and Hillary is Biden, Hillary has Jupiter in Sag on her ascendant, but Biden is clearly a 12th house candidate, 12th house person. Mars, Mercury, Sun, Venus, all 12th house, all Scorpio. Consummate behind the scenes player. That's who Joe Biden is. He's always been a behind the scenes player, deal maker. That's Joe Biden's chart. Period. End of story. This is not a great chart for a president, by the way, unless you have a deal maker president, which I think we kind of do. But at least he's sort of more outward with it. Biden's midheaven is right here at 19 Virgo, which means transiting Neptune is down here opposing his midheaven. To me, that would be indicative of why the guy is so freaking foggy with the Neptune midheaven opposition, especially in Pisces. Very foggy. That would explain a lot about his condition and state. Let's see, what else do we have here? His moon is at 0 Taurus, which is actually a pretty decent place for the moon in a chart. And he's got that moon Pluto square. Boy, he loves money, doesn't he? He loves that money. Jupiter in Cancer at 25 degrees. That's interesting because his Jupiter is conjunct Trump's Saturn. So it's a very interesting combination of contrast. And his Jupiter is retrograde, and he's going through a Pluto and Saturn Jupiter opposition right now. Very interesting. So one could make a case that with Pluto opposition here, that his power would be theoretically be drained out of him. But what's interesting is that he's also raised a shit ton of money. Like, he's raised more money than Trump, and that's Jupiter in Cancer in the 8th house with other people's money. And we know why. It's really been about Black Lives Matter and how that money's been funneled into the Biden campaign. I think the big ticket for Biden moving forward is the Uranus-Mars opposition, which for me, if somehow he gets elected, that Uranus-Mars opposition will clearly be about being replaced. And transiting Uranus is at 9 degrees right now. So by this time next year, Uranus-Mars opposition, boom. I think it's about the removal of power and swift. And of course, Kamala Harris has that Aquarius midheaven set up for the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. And look, if she becomes president of the United States, at the very least, you know who your enemies are. And I've said that before. Very clear. Very, very clear about that. So I think, again, by and large, Trump has the more dominant chart. I do think he's got some issues with the Moon-Neptune conjunction in Pisces, but so does Biden. And that's going to be right here, right? That will be opposed as midheaven. So Biden will have his own issues with that transit. It doesn't have the same kind of impact with Trump as it really will hammer into Trump's mutable signs. But it will definitely have an issue. Now, there's two things that could happen with Biden here. One is that he can be shown to be just incredibly inept with this. The other is that in a weird way, and this is where Trump has to be careful, that Biden could come off looking like the more sympathetic character. It's going to go two ways with Biden. Either, and the two are not mutually exclusive, he will either look incredibly inept and or be sympathetic. But I feel, okay, that's one, we're dealing with a lot of Gemini energy, a ton of Gemini energy. And he's got Black Moon Lilith in Gemini. The other part is that if they bring this other Biden in, then he might wind up looking, really on the dot and much, much more together than people have given him credit for. So again, that kind of plays into this opposition with Moon Neptune down here opposing his midheaven. It's going to be interesting to watch just from like that perspective alone. It'll be very interesting to watch. We have Venus and Leo currently. That's going to be squaring Biden's Venus in Scorpio. I think that Trump will hit hard on Burisma, Ukraine, and Hunter Biden because Venus and Leo obviously is children, right? And, if you can make a case for Pluto in the, where is the 8th house, right? Other people's money and children right there. Boom. I think Trump could hammer on that. He could definitely hammer on that. And I do think this will be problematic for Biden in 2021, regardless of whether he's nominated and becomes president or not. Saturn opposition Pluto. I mean, when I say voted in. Saturn opposition Pluto, Uranus opposition Mars. I don't think this version of Biden's long for this world. I just don't, not based on these factors. But tonight, again, you could get a stunning or shocking version of him if they bring the other Biden off the bench, or you'll get the inept and feeble and bumbling yet sympathetic character. In either regard, Trump has to be kind of on his toes and can't play the role of the bully, but at the same time, still have to be on the attack. If you believe that this debate will not be scripted, that it is happening kind of its own accord, which we will all witness to some degree or another. Because as we know, life, for the most part, tends to be a scripted experience. Okay, let me check back in with you. Let's see where you're at. Yes, if Trump played Iron Hand and Velvet Glove, it would make him look better. Trump is always chill, not always polite. I got to say, the Trump, for sheer entertainment value alone, the Trump-Clinton debates were by far one of the best things that ever happened to TV. Like, that was pure WWE. That was pure WWE stuff. It was great, just for sheer entertainment value alone. And after Trump got through the first debate, which he was not very good at, the next two, he was, he let it all fly. But, it was, look, all the stuff that was promised during that debate, or those last two debates, didn't really happen. But Trump is very clever. He said, I would hire an attorney general, and their first, order of business would be to, investigate and go after Hillary Clinton. Well, he did that. He hired Jeff Sessions. And what was the first thing that Jeff Sessions did is he recused himself. So that kind of shot that one in the foot, didn't it? I feel like Biden will bring a surprise tonight. Well, I think that's kind of in the cards. I think that, again, I think they've got another Biden waiting in the wings. That's what I think. I think that they have been using this version of Biden to kind of sandbag. And it'll either be a different version of Biden, or he'll be a super hopped up, hyped up, chemically enhanced version of Biden. Yes. There we go. I am tuning in for entertainment value. Absolutely. Is Uncle Glenn still around? What did he have to say? Hey, if it's all theaters, it is theater. The only problem with the theater is when it gets theoretically real. And this is, I guess, a more benign version of the theater. If it weren't so tragic, it would be comical. I would agree. I hope Trump makes a spectacle like the Hillary debates. Those are great. But again, the first debate, he was awkward. And you could hear him breathing heavily, like CNN turned up the volume on his mic. So he sounded like a mouth breather. Yeah. CNN, I believe Fox is hosting the debate tonight. And Chris Wallace will be the moderator, the son of Mike Wallace. Okay, there's your debate breakdown, your astrological debate breakdown. So I think I want to pretty much. Here's one thing I want to bring up before we go, and it's a very interesting article from Winter Watch, which is a website that I think is quite good. Not for everybody, but quite good. And one of the things that they cover here is this idea of the fifth column capture. And it's a strategy that was employed and then deployed by these fifth column bad actors. And the fifth column bad actors, they are not solely Democratic or progressive. They don't care about party affiliation or power. Or they care about power. They don't care about party affiliation. But essentially what's been done is American cities have been captured by a particular type of leadership. I'll give you a couple of instances that aren't really hard to wrap your head around. Jacob Fry of Minneapolis, London Breed of San Francisco, Jenny Durkin, Garcetti from LA. I mean, you can see sort of how these mayors have been set up in these sort of city states, right? Because when we go through balkanization and decentralization, like the mayors actually have more power theoretically than governors or senators, for that matter, and even to some extent, presidents. To some extent, Justin Amash was recently on the Unity podcast, Dark Horse podcast with Brett Weinstein, lamenting over the fact that in today's political climate, one cannot be truly nonpartisan, that you have to align yourself with one gang or the other gang. And I think Amash, has really good intentions and somebody who kind of believes in the official story of government. And I think now he's no longer, and he's removed himself from public office. And I was talking with Emily, and it's like, well, where does a guy like Justin Amash go? And I said, maybe he gets into like the think tank world, which is probably where he's going to go. But I'll tell you right now, if Justin Amash really wanted to make a change, he'd become a mayor of a city, because we're going to be seeing these ideas of the city states. Think about that. The city states, not the state, the city, but the city states. And the mayors are wielding tremendous amounts of power. And so you bring mayors into these various cities, and these are fifth column appointments of mayors. It's been going on for a long time. And then what you do is you change the demographics of the city to match the appointment of these fifth column mayors. So again, Minneapolis would be a great example. Jacob Fry, the fifth column mayor, or the party. And then you bring in the Somalian refugees who really don't have a lot of positive vibes and good feelings towards this country, mainly because their country was bombed to shit. And, We were involved in the bombing in the destruction of that country, either directly or indirectly through the sale of arms. So there's not a lot of good feeling there. Not a lot of good feeling. So now you have Ilhan Omar moving into Minneapolis, and you have people like Keith Ellison in Minneapolis and his son. I mean, it's just going off the rails, right? And what do we see? We see voter fraud. Project Veritas has basically come out and once again opened our eyes to the voter fraud that has been taking place in Minneapolis, right? So I'm just going to quickly bring this into the conversation today to show you kind of what's going on in the what I would call the cosmological redistricting of the country and consciousness. So here we go. All these here are absentee ballots. Can't you see? Look at all these. My car is full. My car is full. Waxas absent ballots. Halkas yala su uma jadid. So this is a Somalian. Ilhan Omar connected cash for ballots. Voter fraud scheme corrupts elections. These here are all absentee ballots. Look, my car is full. Money is the king of everything. This is how this is being translated. Ballot harvester Liban Mohammed. Money is everything. Money is the king in this world. If you got no money, you should not be here, period. You know what I am saying. Money is everything, and a campaign is managed by money. On and on and on and on. So here's this is James O'Keefe about the ballot harvesting in Minneapolis. Should we play a little? Here's this guy. Money is everything. Money is the king in this world. If you ain't got money, you should not be here, period. The beauties of materialism. The beauties of materialism. You cannot campaign with $200 you get from your grandmother or grandfather. You cannot campaign with it. You got to have an investment to campaign. You got to have fundraisers. Hennepin County Attorney Jeff Wojciechowski told the Project Veritas journalist on a recorded line the ballot harvesting conduct described him was illegal and we will be investigating. Well, good for that. Good for that. Central to the Project Veritas investigation was Omar Jamal, political insider, active in the city's Somali community. Jamal works for the Ramsey County Sheriff Department and is chairman of the Somali Watchdog Group. So, no, I guess not all Somalis are bad. I've been involved in the community for the last 20 years. Omar Jamal is the latest brave Project Veritas insider to forward and expose a voter fraud scheme in Minnesota that will shock you, said O'Keefe. When we spoke with Omar Jamal, he repeatedly repeated part of our PV Insider motto, do something. So here's a guy who is apparently motivated to do something. Omar Jamal. So they ballot harvesters will request it, the ballot for the elderly, blah, 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 blah. A political operative known as Jamal from Minnesota's Democratic Farmer Labor Party, which functions as the state's chapter of the National Democratic Party, told Project Veritas undercover journalist he was afraid to speak up when he saw the abuses of the voting system. They fight you if you speak up, Jamal said. Like what? Like what can I do? Like get jumped? Hell no. They ain't got, no, I'm good. So I guess they turned him. And you'll be hearing a little bit more about this, right? Of course, Project Veritas probably paid him, which again, I don't have a problem with. But this is going on. And there is an arrest here in Texas that had to do with somebody connected to Ilhan Omar as well. So what's going to happen? What is Bill Barr going to do? Because clearly there's a lot of illegal activity going on. And yet Ilhan Omar, who's proven time and again to be involved in everything from marrying her brother in order to get fake citizenship, to attending these so-called protests to having a funny money scheme with her campaign, her now so-called lover, manager, and now even the this ballot harvesting thing in her district still remains untouchable. Untouchable. So if they really wanted to crack down on this idea that these elections could be tossed or they could be thrown into another direction by ballot harvesting or the late voters or whatever these things are, right? That they're going to bring out, they've had plenty of time in advance to remove the characters who would be involved in these schemes or efforts to derail the election. But it hasn't happened, just like a lot of these other things haven't happened. So perhaps there is, 5D chess playing or at work here. We'll see. We'll see what happens, and we'll see what comes out of the. And we're not even really in October yet, and we haven't really hit the October surprise phase. That'll be interesting, and maybe we can do a show on that in the not so distant future, perhaps next week. So I'll continue to do 15 minutes here during the weekday mornings, even though it's an hour and 26 minutes. I'll continue to do these shows up until Friday. Friday, we'll be doing the Friday Forecast live from the Hill Country. That'll be fun. And it will be the members of Chatlandia who will be the guests. It'll be very cool. So anyway, probably will not have a Sunday night show because, it'll be our last night together as a group. But there you go. That's the forecast moving forward. And again, I want to say thank you to everybody who supports the show vis-a-vis your participation, your presence, whatever it is that you bring to the table. Thank you very much. I truly appreciate it. And, I think we make a bit of a difference every day. At the very least, it's a tonic for the troops. And that you're not the crazy one and you're not alone when it comes to trying to sift through this so-called reality that we have found ourselves in. So until tomorrow, use your head in order to discern what's real, your heart to stay open to what's possible. Thumbs downers. No, they're just here. Look, I got people that don't like me. It's okay. Not everybody's, liked. This is the way it is. Not a popularity contest. All right. See you guys tomorrow. Take good care of yourselves. And I mean that wholeheartedly. Bye for now.